for you up there now, 98.7 FM, HD 98.7 FM if you want digital clarity. 98.3 FM in the Lakes region as well, and 107.3 FM and 107.7 FM. But the point is, good morning, New Hampshire, the pulse of an H. The pulse of New England. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning, beyond. Good morning, worldwide. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Play the pulse of an H. Our poll question up on X this morning at the pulse of an H. We're going to keep it light. Good morning, J-Dog. Going to keep it light. And that's the Red Sox. They keep winning, so let's keep it light and get off the politics for a day. Do you think the Red Sox, we're going to go with what, can win the division, J-Dog?
Can the Red Sox win the American League East Division in 2026? Yes or no?
Well, I like how they traded up there, too. And so they're pounding it. We'll see. J-Dog, what do you think? They have a good chance?
Absolutely. They are the hottest team in baseball. They have the greatest July in the history of the franchise.
Wow.
They've won 4 championships in our lifetime. They had the greatest July in 126 years as a franchise. July 2026 was their greatest month. They have yet to lose this month in August.
And there you have it. All right, Jack Heath, J-Dog on the boards. As I said, we are looking at warmer temperatures. You can already feel it out there. Mike Pomp coming off the Morning Information Center, humid weather. Going to get a little balmy today. Going to get up near that 9-0 mark, or at least a lot warmer than it's been. So enjoy it, and it's going to, I think, more of the same tomorrow as we head into our Thursday. We have we have a congressional candidate coming up in this hour, Republican. Anthony DiLorenzo will be joining us tomorrow. We'll hear from, I guess, his main challenger, Holly Novoletsky. We have a lot going on. We're also going to come back and talk about University of New Hampshire. I told you a week or so ago, the union there has reached an impasse with the administration on a new deal. But we're hearing from UNH professors there's been a big turnover, like a 30% turnover, that they say the administration's not filling, and the administration or the bean counters talk about a $10 million loss already going into this year, declining enrollment. Morale and leadership, according to some of the faculty members talking to this show, and yours truly saying is quite low at our flagship UNH in Durham. We'll have more on that. Of course, we had our friends from New Hampshire Technical Institute on yesterday. The community college system is booming, thriving, and growing. You know what I always say in some commentary, why don't we just put the community college system on the campuses of our 3-4-year universities or colleges and see the growth together with synergy, but that would probably be too innovative and simple. All right, we'll come back to that. What about recruitment? You know, it was fun to be this week at the Military and Veterans Center in Franklin, and Easter Seals live the other morning, Tuesday. It was a wonderful day for Phase 2. We talk about first responders and the importance of public safety in our New Hampshire State Police segment. We're going to begin a little bit early this morning because we have a guest who was nice enough to come in to our Capitol studios in person, and he is Sergeant Caraballo, and he is, I guess, I love the first name. Is it Aramis?
It is. It's Aramis.
I got it correct. At least one of them. You're on the recruitment and training unit and the recruitment and training side, and I think it's a big statewide and really regional or national story. And I reference the military because I hear the same thing. Really good new troopers once they get through everything. So the quality's there, but the quantity is the challenge. Is that fair?
I could agree with that, yes. And thank you for having me on this morning, Jack.
Well, thank you for what you do.
I appreciate that. I would say in both aspects, yes, that I'll have many people sign up. 100 so sign up for the next test. Our next one, to put it out there, is going to be October 3rd. But then actually on test day, that we start with that physical fitness test, I may only get 35, 40 if I'm lucky to actually show up. And of that, about a third haven't properly prepared. They didn't realize how physically demanding that test actually is.
So I've had some experience with this, with you and others in the past on that physical aspect, and I think there's information that a candidate can look at before they're supposed to show up. But I hear the same thing, Sergeant, in the military. I hear the same thing from Army recruiters, Navy, Marines, that people, just to mention a few of the branches, they underestimate the basics of being in physical shape. They may do cardio or, an elliptical, and then they're told to do sit-ups a certain way and push-ups. Is that basically what you're running into?
Absolutely. And actually, it's usually that first event, those sit-ups, because they have to be done in a specific way with your fingers interlocked behind your head. that I usually lose the most of my candidates.
And so it's on the floor, knees up.
Yes, you'll start in the down position. Your feet are locked into a bar, hands
Yep.
are behind your head, and as many sit-ups as you can do in 1 minute. It's based on age, on the old Cooper standards.
So you're looking at me pretty generously when you said that. I can do it at 30 in a minute. No, but what is there a number you're looking for? A minimum?
So it goes off of your age, what the minimum standard.
So let's say a
is.
30-year-old candidate,
30-year-old candidate. If you can do 40, that's good.
and a lot of people stumble on that block.
Absolutely.
Really?
I'll see many come up with 36, 37, 38.
Are they just surprised, like, wow, I didn't really prepare for this, or I didn't know that I was doing sit-ups this way, or
I think some probably don't look online. We do actually have a video online that shows if you go to
Yeah.
joinstatepolicenewhampshire.com, and it'll show you the proper way to do it. And I don't think they actually practice it.
Sergeant, how important is attitude when you're looking at a candidate and you're looking at a candidate and they want to become a New Hampshire State Trooper and all that's involved in that today? How important is attitude and drive, just the attitude of a person?
Attitude and drive is extremely important. I can go back to the PT test, for example. We'll have people that show up and say, hey, that's the minimum number that I need, and that's what I'm going to get. But that's not really the person I'm looking for. I want the person that looks at those numbers and they say, hey, I've got to do 40 push-ups. You know what? I'm going to try and do 80 because I know I'm competing for a spot here. That's
Yeah.
kind of the attitude I'm looking for.
Hunger and drive.
Yes.
And how long, by the way, how long have you been in the state police?
I'm coming up on 11 years now.
Yeah. And what made you want to join?
Well, I was in the military before.
I remember that
Yeah.
because you came in with a Marine once for Toys for Tots, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I was a corpsman, so I was in the Navy, but I was a medic for the Marines. So
Yep.
we got along pretty good in here last time.
Yeah. I was with CJ the other day at the show, and a couple of Marines came over and said, thanks for the ride. He's in the Navy. All right. So what made you want to join not only law enforcement in this day and age, because I'm not going to, I can bring this up, Sergeant. I advise you not to even respond.
Okay.
There are candidates that are winning primaries in Senate and congressional races in the country that are not very big supporters of law enforcement, and they want to fund the police less until they realize we have to fund them more, like Lewiston, Maine. I just read $200,000 more because 20 people have been shot just in young gang violence in the last few weeks. My point is, the environment here, I think, is healthier and more supportive. You just nodded. You think
Absolutely,
people
yes.
here appreciate their public safety?
Absolutely. I know in several states that may surround us, there are a lot of dealings and goings-ons that don't meet the public eye. They're not up to standard, but we've done a great job here at State Police to
Yeah.
hold that standard and represent those that wore their uniform before us.
Yeah.
And I think our public realizes that, and they still appreciate
I
it.
think the professionalism, I've been doing this for a while, and I'll be totally candid. This segment has been years of my show, public safety information. It's pretty sad, the only commercial network in the country of a morning show where they dedicate some time to public safety. And I do thank our friends at AutoFair for that as well. But when I've never seen, it seems in the last few years, the professional nature, the level of professionalism in the state police is pretty darn high, in my opinion. The troopers I've met,
Well, I would agree with your opinion.
they're professional, they're focused, they're not cavalier about their jobs, whether they're on the side of the road or, in fact, this morning I mentioned to you Route 4.
Yes.
At one of the rotaries, I saw one of your, I think, probably senior folks, troopers, but not state police members, but not like in uniform trooper, had to stop at a rotary because a woman got in an accident. It wasn't a very safe place to stop. First thing he did was make everyone safe himself. He put him where he put. I'm like, you're right in the middle of that rotary, but he didn't think twice, and he's out there helping her. Just that's what you do.
That's outstanding. That's what we like to hear, because that's our face to the public there. We are
Yeah.
representing us in this uniform, as I said, and we want to be taking care of that public and make that trust.
So I want to ask you, Sergeant, earlier with the police recruitment and training, before we get to that October next phase, or I guess not academy, or what is it?
So that would be our end test. It's October 3rd, and we start every hiring cycle with a physical fitness test.
It starts with physical, not aptitude, not like questions and interview. Physical.
Absolutely.
You
Starts
do
with
that
physical
right up
fitness.
front.
Yes, sir.
So there you go, J-Dog. If you're going to join the state police, we're going to work on those sit-ups, both of us. Okay, before we get to that, I asked you 11 years, what made you want to be a New Hampshire State Trooper?
Well, it was something that I've always wanted to do since I was a child. One, either be in the military, or two, be a police officer. I checked off that military box, but I had young ones, and I needed to get out of the military so I wouldn't deploy and come home a stranger to them. And so I was, you know what, I'm going to be an officer. And when I looked up to the north, because I was in Pensacola for my last command, I chose state police and I said, I'm going to fly up there and do everything I can to get hired by the state police because I see that as the top pinnacle of law enforcement in New Hampshire.
Was it the green and the uniforms and the crews that made you want to come to New Hampshire? No, I'm kidding. Pretty sharp stuff. But one thing I want to ask you too is, when I was at the military and veteran campus phase 2 ribbon cutting on Tuesday in Franklin, Sheriff Merrimack County Croft came over and we sat and did an interview segment on my show, and he was talking about first responders and the folks in our state addressing more the behavioral, the mental health side of the job, and I know Russ Conti's been on my show a lot, retired major, but still with the state police working on this. But what's it like balancing a family life and everyday life in today's fast-paced society? When you're out there, heaven forbid, it could be a fatal accident. It could be a bad encounter with a person who wants to hurt you. Some of the stuff you see, the adrenaline, the pace of the job. What's it like balancing? And you've been a Marine. You are a Marine. You're in the service. What's it like balancing that with a normal home life and just going to the kids' little league game and everything's hunky dory?
It can be a little bit surreal because perhaps I've dealt with something extremely dangerous in my job.
Yep.
And then you're absolutely right. I then have to come home, change clothes, and go to my youngest soccer game. And I can't relay what I've just been through to him.
Yep.
So you compartmentalize a little bit, but then I always make sure that I speak with my wife. And I usually at this point say that I'm kind of cheating because my wife is also a mental health counselor. So we have a very good relationship in that aspect. So very open, honest with her about everything I've been through.
Well, thanks for the candid answer. Hey, stand by. You're with us live with the State Police. We're going to go to John Decker, our White House correspondent. Sorry, John, and thank you for your patience. This season, John Decker, we're going to change gears a little bit. We just had some primaries, but we've had some scandals in Congress. And today, I think in the Senate side, they're going to decide whether or not to hold Anthony Fauci in contempt. But what about some of these scandals where you're seeing a congressman from California ending his campaign for governor after being accused of sexual assault, and another congressman from Ohio? Take it away, John.
Yeah, the congressman from Ohio is Max Miller. So he has domestic abuse allegations being made against him by his ex-wife, supported by his former father-in-law, who's actually a senator, Bernie Moreno from Ohio. So he has some major headwinds heading into his reelection run. He says he's not stepping down like Eric Swalwell left the governor's race in California. There are other scandals as well in other parts of the country. Other congressmen accused of sexual impropriety, whether you're talking about a congressman from North Carolina or one from Texas. And every seat counts, Jack. You know that, this election cycle. So when you're talking about a very narrow majority that Republicans have, that House seat in the 7th District of Ohio could make the difference between who controls the House of Representatives for the next 2 years.
Remarkable margins, because so many people are reading into that one Senate race in Michigan, for example, could determine the majority in the Senate. Amazing. And then, of course,
You're right.
He wasn't in office yet, but the Graham Plattner, pulling out of that race in Maine because of allegations of assault. We seem to see a lot of it. All right, John Decker, stay cool. Stay cool in the Potomac.
You too, Jack.
Our White House
Thank
correspondent. So we have the sergeant from recruitment and training for the New Hampshire State Police. Let's just spend a moment or two before break and just tell me, you're looking for attitude and drive and people who really want to earn that place in the state police. They really want to give it their all.
Absolutely.
Okay, but who's out there listening, and are you seeing different ages now and stages in life of people wanting to make a career change? Still on the younger side, in the early 20s? Are you seeing candidates in their early 30s, mid-30s coming in saying, I want to join the state police, I want to make a change and help the public? What are you seeing?
All of the above. I see young candidates just graduating from college, 22, 23 years old, applying to the state police. I see those in their mid-30s, as I did, because I had a military career first, and even 40s and 50s.
All right, hold the thought. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and wrap it up with our friends from the New Hampshire State Police. A little bit later on, one of the Republicans running for Congress. Back on the Pulse of an H in a moment.
Register now for the Pulse of New Hampshire.
On the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, I want to wrap up with our sergeant who's with the recruitment and training for the New Hampshire State Police. Several points you were making during the break, Sergeant. Thank you for being here. I want you to run through all of them. You had a tip
Yes.
for interested candidates, or a few tips actually.
Actually,
You had an idea. You have a great way to get some experience through Marine Patrol. So I want you to run through that, and then also if you can give the website and how can someone just call and talk to you, saying, "Hey, before I even do all this, I just want to talk to you. Come in, maybe have a cup of coffee, get a tour of headquarters. Say, look at, am I the kind of person? I have questions. I was working for a utility for 10 years, but I want to become a trooper. Can I talk to you?" So take it away.
Absolutely. So all of our contact information is on our website. If you just Google Joint State Police New Hampshire or NH, our website will come right up as the first one. So there's a way to email us through there as well as contact us via telephone. It won't give you a direct line to me, but there's several other people that work in the office with me, just in case I'm out of the office like I am right now. One of them would answer the phone for you. As far as tips as getting into the New Hampshire State Police, what we're looking for is that top tier candidate. And one, physical fitness is very important, but we need life experience. So someone that's been in the military usually has that good life experience. Someone that's been a prior certified officer and already worked
Another
the job,
department, local, part-time. Yep.
great experience. But how do I get that experience if I'm 22 years old, I'm coming out of college? I meet the age, I meet the credit requirement, but I've never had a job in this field, right? Because I couldn't get one until now. It's a similar problem I faced when I got out of college and nobody would hire me. I had a 4-year degree, did great, but I had 0 experience. So I joined the military. Well, for us, I'd like to point out that we also have a Marine division, Marine Patrol division. And as soon as you're 18, you're actually eligible to become a part-time officer with that Marine Patrol division. So you're trained by and with state troopers as well. And you can work every summer with us and alongside us in that Marine Patrol division.
As part of the state police.
Absolutely. So that when you graduate with your degree, either criminal justice, 60 credits from a community college, or a full 4-year degree and a bachelor's for criminal justice, you not only have that degree, but you have 3 to 4 years of experience being an officer.
And some good experience on fresh or salt water,
Absolutely.
which can never hurt because you're out and about and you never know if you have to stop and do something. And all right, best way to follow up, contact you one more time, name, a number, a website. People have questions on how to do those sit-ups properly.
Absolutely. So all that information is on our website again, and it's Joint State Police, NH, or newhampshire.com.
You get the older candidates, you can always not rule out planks, make them see if they can hold a 3 or 4 minute plank. I've been AI, Google say, hey, for a person my age, is a 3 or 4 minute plank good? And it goes, yes, quite good. Yeah.
It's very good.
All right. Hey, thanks for coming by.
My pleasure.
Sergeant Caraballo, and be well, thank you, and thank you for what you do.
I appreciate you having me on today.
And I should mention to the public, there are probably, and he can correct me, but there are probably 50 openings with the New Hampshire State Police. And I don't remember a time, I mean, it's been years like that. It's a trend we've been seeing for many years now. But you go back 10, 15, 20 years ago, there were not 50 openings.
No, there were not.
So-
but we're still holding that same level. So I'll have, as I said, a test.
Yeah.
We'll have 35 to 40 show up. And by the time we're all done, I'm hiring about 4%. So I've had a class of
4%?
2. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll have a class of 2. I just hired a class of 4. We're working through our next one right now. So
Yeah. I had Rick Kaiser from the Navy SEALs in when they were up in July in our studios, and I just asked him because he'd been down to the Bud School recently because he's one of the senior SEAL Team 6 guys, and he said, Jack, we'll get about, what do you say, J-Dog, 130, 120, 130 candidates in a Bud's class, and I go, how many graduate? And he goes, maybe 22, maybe 20. Yeah.
it's a process.
All right. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse on H. We come back. Politics are getting hot like the weather in the Granite State. And coming up, we have one of the Republican candidates, Anthony DiLorenzo, running in the 1st Congressional District. We'll see what the issues are there next. We'll be back in a moment.
This is the Pulse.
today, but over here we got some guests coming in today, and enjoyed our representatives from the New Hampshire State Police live in our studios a moment ago. They do a great job. Let's switch gears. Like the weather today, it's going to be hot, and things are heating up in these primaries right here in New Hampshire. You got the Senate primary. We have the congressional, and a lot of people haven't been focusing, but I know our next guest has been focusing quite a bit on his race in the 1st Congressional District as a Republican, Anthony DiLorenzo, joining us live. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Let me start with some of these other state primaries. In Michigan, the Senate candidate, Abdul El Sayed, winning a tighter race than the poll showed, but pretty overt socialist, almost, talking about corporations being taken over by the government. Pretty communist. Anyway, what's your reaction as a Republican running in the 1st Congressional District? And I'm not sure that far progressive left goes as far as it does here in New Hampshire, but I did notice some progressive Democrats in New Hampshire here cheering that victory in Michigan. So, Anthony DiLorenzo, what's your feeling as a candidate running for Congress, seeing the Democrat Party being pushed way left?
It's disturbing. As an American, it's disturbing. There is no substitute for hard work, and socialism has not worked anywhere. And I'm very concerned that the Democrat Party is trying to take what we stand for in New Hampshire, no income tax, no sales tax, limited government, and I think their end goal is to try to turn us into Maine or Massachusetts. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in Maine or Massachusetts, and it's important that New Hampshire voters come out and vote and defeat the Democrat Party before we look back and say we should have done more to defeat them.
In the state of Maine now, Troy Jackson is the chosen or anointed Democrat running in the U.S. Senate. I only ask this because it involves New Hampshire and maybe one of your opponents, or if you win the primary. I know you have other challengers, including Holly Novoletsky. I think it's Melissa Bailey and others, but and a few names I don't have in front of me. I apologize. But you have the Trump endorsement. Some would say you have an advantage. But let me ask you this, Anthony DiLorenzo. When you look at that Graham Plattner debacle in the state of Maine, before a woman came out and said he's a former acquaintance and he raped me. I mean, serious charges, and he finally relinquished the nomination, winning the primary there. I guess the question is, New Hampshire Democrats, and I don't know about Stephanie Shaheen or Maura Sullivan in the 1st District and others, and Chris Pappas, were slow to say that Plattner should pull out when asked by New Hampshire media. It was slow to say, no, I think this guy is not fit for office. They were slow to say that. Do you think the New Hampshire Democrats, like a Stephanie Shaheen or Maura Sullivan, do they like El Sayed's win in Michigan? Do they think their party's going too far left? Are they coming out and speaking about this or staying quiet?
The real narrative here is our Democrat candidates and our current Democrat leadership do not act until the party bosses in D.C. tell them to. They voted against the largest tax cut in American history. They voted against eliminating taxes on Social Security. They would not call out a candidate that had a Nazi tattoo on his chest until the party bosses told him it was okay to do so. And the first in the primary is another perfect example. These people are not standing up. They're not representing the Granite Staters, the people in New Hampshire, and we're all suffering for it. And what I bring to the table is pragmatic, common sense business leadership. And I want to represent all Granite Staters in D.C. to improve the lives of everybody here.
Let me ask you, Anthony DiLorenzo, Republican, is one of the main issues when you go out and speak to people and you go to shake hands and say, hey, I'm running, or you go to an event, affordability, cost of living, is that still
Absolutely.
Driving concerns here?
It absolutely is. It's a little bit diluted because that word affordability is overused. But the bottom line is housing prices in New Hampshire have outpaced wages over the last 25, 30 years, 3-to-1. People can't afford, especially younger people, can't afford to get into a house, and that's unaffordable. wages are stagnant in New Hampshire. We need to attract and create more jobs, and that's something I've been doing in the private sector my entire career. I've created over 1,000 jobs, and I'll continue to do that when I get to D.C. But prices are too high, and we've had too many elected officials, Democrat elected officials, giving lip service to the problem and not addressing it. And these problems are fixable, but they're not going to get done by professional politicians, political insiders, and people without the pragmatic business experience to fix them.
Let me ask you this, Anthony DiLorenzo, Republican, 1st Congressional District. Some analysts on my show and some of my political contributors on my show say that the Trump endorsement of you in the primary helps. But in the general election, whoever you're facing, whether it's a Stephanie Shaheen, Maura Sullivan, that independent voters and President Trump's approval ratings in New Hampshire are underwater or low. In independents, if things are still expensive, uncertainty in the Middle East, high gas prices, that they may tilt left in the federal races in independent voters, even if they vote Republican, for example, in the governor's race. They've shown a tendency to put Democrats in these federal seats, including the 1st district, which you're running in, which used to be a back and forth district. So if you are the nominee, can you win this thing?
Absolutely. I'm honored to have the president's endorsement. The president and House leadership recognizes me as the best candidate to represent New Hampshire. I'm also honored to have Congressman Ginta, congressional candidate Russell Prescott, Melissa Bailey, Chris Bright. I'm honored to have all of those endorsements. The most important endorsement is the people of New Hampshire. And this race, the Democrats want this race to be about President Trump. This race, President Trump's already been elected. This race is about New Hampshire's future. And I believe that people in New Hampshire are tired of not being represented properly by the Democrats and understand that a pragmatic business leader has the experience and ability to represent them in a manner that is beneficial to improving their lives.
Do you see a little bit of a bias here locally, even in the media, again, depending on where the primary goes here, but whether the Republican nominee for Congress or the 1st District or the U.S. Senate race, I imagine the media is going to say, do you defend and support Donald Trump? You know, kind of the gotcha question. Do you support President Trump? Do you defend President Trump on this or that? Do you support President Trump? Do you think the same media is going to ask Democrats who are the nominees, whether it's a Chris Pappas in the Senate race and 1st District, 2nd, hey, do you support the socialists that seem to be getting momentum in your party? Do you support socialism? Do you think they're going to ask those questions of those candidates?
Obviously, the media is biased to the left. And I think the important thing to note is, like, look what happened in Virginia. The governor there ran as a moderate. As soon as she got in, she endorsed a plethora of taxes on everything. I mean, gym memberships, walking your dog. It's pure insanity. So I would not trust the Democrats to answer that question truthfully. And look at the petition that the current congressional Democrats signed. Out of over 200 congressional Democrats, only 13 were willing to sign a document renouncing socialism. That right there tells you enough. And I do not trust our current federal delegation or the candidates to stand up and represent New Hampshire. And that's what I intend to do when I get to D.C.
If you were successful in this race, and I'm going to let you go, Anthony DiLorenzo, but it is a big question, but I'm sorry, just a minute or two, but we'll come back to it next time you're on. Social Security, you've read the stories and the reports that if we don't do something now, in less than 6 years, people might be taking a haircut in their monthly Social Security checks because of the system and how much money's there and all that. It's going to become insolvent, and we're still younger people. We're still taking money out of their paycheck for that. So if you're elected, how do we save Social Security? I know it's a big question.
No, that's an excellent question. Social Security is an exceptional example of how our leadership has failed us. It was started in 1937. Instead of reserving the money that we all paid in for the obligations the government made to the United States people, they spent it. They spent every nickel of it. And what now happens, it comes out of our operating budget. Had they reserved that money like the private sector is required to do, there would be almost $30 trillion sitting in Social Security today. Instead, it is broke. It's a crisis. What they're telling you is not even accurate. It is broken right now, and the problem we have is we don't have politicians that are willing to stand up and represent us prior to it becoming a catastrophe. The time is now. One of my favorite sayings is, the best day to plant a tree is 10 years ago. The second best day is today.
Yeah.
We need to start working on Social Security today.
And can it be saved in terms of 100% for, future recipients?
Absolutely, but it's going to take tough decisions, and that's the difference between politicians and the private sector. We have to make tough decisions every day to ensure that our employees still have a job,
Right.
our company still operates, and politicians aren't faced with that, and that's why they keep kicking it down the can.
Well, I'm looking.
Down the road.
I hear from a lot of listeners who ask me to ask candidates about Social Security because they're getting nervous because with things being so expensive, those checks are important, whether it's a couple or a veteran or an individual. And one thing of the things that, whether we raise the retirement age or, cut spending, it's going to take something like that, correct?
Fiscal responsibility is lacking in D.C., and it's not going to get corrected by electing busboys and people that have not had business experience in the private sector. So I agree that we have to reel in spending, and we have to fix Social Security.
All right, Anthony DiLorenzo, Republican, 1st Congressional District. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, we come back. Michael Graham on deck, the Pulse of an H. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. J-Dog, real quick. Do you want to throw out a number during the break for WWE tickets next
You
week?
throw the number out. I answer the phone.
Southern New Hampshire University will also give you the...
SNHU Arena.
What's that?
SNHU Arena.
SNHU Arena. That's right. In Manchester. And by the way, J-Dog, let's go with caller number 4 because it's a quick break. 603-228-2080. It's next Thursday night.
1 week from today.
And you're doing the ring announcing?
I am not doing the ring announcing. I am working here.
All right. Caller number 4, WWE in Manchester next Thursday night. Back on the Pulse of an H in a moment.
News,
All right, someone who supported socialism in college until he started paying taxes. Michael Graham, New Hampshire Journal, NHJournal.com. Good morning, sir.
I actually was the chairman of the Young Democrats in my college.
Were you?
Because nobody else would do it. Everyone was too scared. So anyway, I didn't really do anything. I took the job so someone could do it so they could fill out the paperwork. But anyway, great interview with Anthony DiLorenzo. I saw that he did what all good politicians do, which is dodge when you ask the question, so what are you going to do about Social Security? Because no one wants to talk about it because it's ugly. You either have to spend less, you either have to give people less money or take more money from everyone else. There's no two ways about it. I don't know if you saw that Congressman Chris Pappas was running for U.S. Senate, did a big event in Manchester this week with the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, and they are very open. There should be no changes in benefits. That means there should be no means testing. Rich people should get Social Security. There should be no change in the retirement age. Doesn't matter that the system was designed, when life expectancy was 65 and now life expectancy is 81. They want more money. They want higher taxes. They want to lift the cap. So right now, Jack, you have a bunch of listeners who pay Social Security taxes on wages up to $185,000. But after that, they don't pay anymore because it's a retirement program. It's not an entitlement. And so they want to take that cap off and make you pay it all the way up. And they also support a broad-based Social Security tax hike on everybody. So we asked Congressman Pappas, you took their endorsement, you're doing an event with them, they gave him a pair of gloves, like boxing gloves, to show he's ready to fight for Social Security. Do you support their plan? No comment. He said he wants to have a commission. And that's what politicians say when you ask them hard questions. I want a commission. We need fiscal responsibility. It's tough. It's not easy. I feel for them, but, that's where we are. So by the way, Stephanie Shaheen was also endorsed by this group. We asked the same question. Do you support their call for higher taxes across the board on, for everyone on their wages for Social Security? And her answer was no comment.
What about boys and girls sports?
I remember that one. She was on your show. Yeah. So it's case by case basis. She'd come back to you with an answer, and it did not improve.
What about? Wait, hold on. What
do you think of El Sayed's big victory out in Michigan?
Well, I was going to go there. I was going to go there and ask you. What about Democrats here on the progressive side? Are they cheering that victory?
Yeah, I mean, so one thing is, and I don't know if this is an insult towards pollsters or if it's a sign that his brand of far left, I don't know, anti-Semites. I mean, I'm not anti-Semite, but I hang out with him regularly, whatever his thing is. Maybe it's not as popular because, the last 6 polls showed him winning by a minimum of 10 points, and he ended up winning by less than 1 point. Mm-hmm. But Dr. El Sayed's victory was greeted by progressives in New Hampshire with great cheers and huzzas. Karishma Manzoor, who's running for the U.S. Senate against Chris Pappas, said that it's great that it's part of a movement building across the country from New York to Colorado to Michigan. Voters are on board.
We have time here, Michael Graham, NH Journal, NHJournal.com. My reaction, I was not surprised he won because the energy was with him, the real activist. Even though it tightened and it was like less than a point or two, the difference is it was a statewide primary. So was Plattner in the state of Maine, but this one was in Michigan, statewide, not a district, not a congressional district, statewide, and he wins. And it tells me there's not an evolution going on in the Democrat Party. There's a revolution. And I would think that if you really push came to shove, the true leaders with the energy and the clout of the Democrat Party now are, the mayor of New York City, AOC, Bernie, and the squad. I mean, it's not any Democrat governor. It's not the former mayor of, Chicago. It's not Gavin Newsom. It's not Pete Buttigieg. The energy, the power, the momentum. And even though the general election is different than a primary, you see where the Democrats are pushing. And the other thing no one's talking about, and Anthony DiLorenzo referenced it, is when I asked him about this socialism push, look at these polls a few months ago that showed how many young Democrats have a more favorable view of socialism than capitalism. What was it, over 65%? Mm-hmm. So that's the direction of the Democrat Party. The media wants to trip up every Republican candidate running, saying, "Hey, do you defend Donald Trump? Do you support Trump? Do you defend Trump?" But they won't ask the Democrats here, or other way. Hey, what do you think about the socialists in your party taking over?
Or like a basic question like, do you support single-payer health care, government-run health care? That's a very basic thing. A lot of Democrats are basing it. You can't get an answer to the question now.
How about this? How about this one? Hold on. How about this one as a differentiator? Do you support funding police more or less in major cities and communities? Do you support funding police? Do you support driver licenses for undocumented immigrants? Yes or no? Just answer the question. Don't tell me about immigration. Don't bring up ICE. Do you support driver licenses? Because, you look at El Sayed, and he's bringing these things back. What about major corporations? Do you think any should be regulated and actually controlled by the government in our society? You ask these questions.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And then the trick is to try to get an answer. What's interesting to me is, and this is a sign that maybe this drift leftward is coming to New Hampshire, because as you know, thus far, there's been no evidence of it. The progressive candidates like Christian Arusha and Heath Howard and Sarah Chazinski and Carly Berriant in the first CD. I got all the names, yes. Their polling is not very impressive. But, for example, Stephanie Shaheen has now clarified that for her, government-run health care, single-payer health care, is on the table. She hasn't said, that's my plan, but she said she's willing to. So that's a shift to the left. And then she went out of her way after 2 weeks of refusing to answer the question, should we ban all military aid to Israel? She flipped and said, yes, I do want to ban all military aid to Israel. So
again, appealing to the far left.
Where the voters are.
All right, Michael Graham, thank you. Make it a good Thursday.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll welcome one of the chairs of one of the parties here in New Hampshire a little bit later on, Scott Spradling. Scott Spradling, former WMUR TV political director and a radio person as well, but someone who I bumped into the other day in Franklin at the Military and Veteran Campus Phase 2 ribbon cutting and groundbreaking. Will join us with some analysis in the next hour. And then a little bit later on, J-Dog, Dan Egan is going to join us, talking about his latest film. And J-Dog, our winner of the WWE tickets?
Nobody.
Oh, caller number 4, 603-228-2080. Or if you want to go next Thursday night, Manchester, Southern New Hampshire University Arena. WWE, it's like a real show, like the real WWE. Next Thursday night, call number 4 right now on the Pulse of an H. Poll question we'll have for you, I think, in the next hour. Back on the Pulse as we get going on this Thursday. Hot weather sticking around. Temperatures will be warmer today. Hey Google, hey Alexa. Jack Heath here, J-Dog of the boards. Hey Google, hey Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment.